first toast is to Odin, victor over all. The second toast we lift to Freyr, harvest bountiful. The third is to the king himself, a beaker to him hand. And then we pour some on the floor for the many that have left. Oh, light the Yule log and bring the Yule goat in.
Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 142. Our guest this week is a lover of nerdy things, a gamer, a self-described gamer, but more importantly, and the reason they are here, they are a musician who has just released a pagan Christmas album called December Celebrations. We have Bart Zeal. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, tell us about it just came out. This episode will be out Monday, December 5th. The album was released December 1st. Tell us about this album.
It's called December Celebrations, like you said, and it's the title sort of explains itself. How it started was during Christmas for several years. I was wondering about the Christmas tree. I heard people talk about Yule, and I know the Christmas tree is not in the Bible. So I was like, well, it's a Christian celebration, and the tree is quite a big part of the symbolism of Christmas. So why is it there? That's how it started. And then I did some research. I found out that it's probably based on the Yule log, the huge pine tree that they put into the fire during Yule, and it keeps feeding the fire until the log is gone. And that's probably where it came from. So when the Christians came north to try and convert the pagans, they saw that they were cutting down trees, and they thought like, well, we're not going to be so destructive. We're not going to burn these trees. We're going to decorate them and put symbols of Christianity in them. I think it went something like that. So that's how the idea started for me to write some songs about where these parts of our Christmas tradition come from. And at first I wanted it to be entirely pagan. And later on I discovered there are so many celebrations in December that some of them are a bit obscure and others we already know, like Hanukkah from the Jewish celebrations. And even the Romans already celebrated Saturnalia, which is about the god Saturn, and all of them, even the Roman thing, are sort of simultaneously in December. So it was really interesting to discover that.
Yeah,
and that's what I wrote the album about.
So your style is very, you're very folky, obviously, but like very fantasy inspired, medieval, yes. That kind of stuff. You were not always into that, though, or maybe you were always into it, but certainly you've done like some indie rock bands, and you've described your sort of roots in music as country and blues. So How did you get into this type of music?
Minecraft. Honestly, you might not expect it, but it was Minecraft that got me into it. I was I'm still playing on a roleplay server, medieval fantasy roleplay server called Hollow World, and it's existed, or it's how do you say that? It's been around for 10 years, and I was playing there. I was a dwarf, and at first I was drawing portraits of characters that I met. You should imagine it a bit like Dungeons and Dragons. So there's just people online playing different kind of characters in a fantasy world and going on adventures. And at some point there was a really nice event, and I thought maybe I'll write a song about this, because I was just started to learn playing guitar. And I was writing songs, like you said, blues, country songs, pop songs. And I thought, maybe I'll try this. And I was a bit scared to post it online, so I made another channel because I was a bit ashamed of being such a geek back then. For no good reason, because, I'm really enjoying this. So at first I posted these medieval fantasy songs on a different channel. And I discovered that it went pretty well. I got really positive feedback also from the people I was role-playing with. And then the big step came, and I decided to put it on my main channel, which was still a tiny channel, so it's not that big of a difference. But that's how I got into writing these medieval fantasy songs, was just sort of D&D Minecraft sessions.
Cool. And speaking of Minecraft, you actually, and bringing it back to the Christmas album, you celebrated the album's completion by playing Minecraft.
Yes, that is true. You did your research. You're good. Yeah, that's right. My producer and I have our own little private server. And once we were done with the last edits of the mix, the final raps, we went into the server and built some stuff. Yeah.
Did you? You said you were a dwarf in this server. Did you kind of become a dwarven bard? Like, did you just start going around playing your songs in Minecraft?
No, actually, I did lend the songs to people who were playing bards. So they used to sometimes ask me if it was all right if they would play a song. And I thought, well, it's more than all right. I'm honored if you would do that. But I went around as a dwarven carpenter for a long time. Yeah, and also making siege weapons.
Oh, that actually makes me ask then. How I know you've dabbled in blacksmithing. What's the coolest thing you've ever smithed? Like in real life, this is.
Yes, yeah, true. Well, the coolest thing would be the only thing, because it was only one workshop. But once I earn enough with music, I'm definitely going to be doing this blacksmithing more often. Once I have, because I don't earn a lot of money with it. But the coolest thing would be it's a beer opener.
Okay.
To open the bottles, but it looks really nice, and it has like a leaf at the back with a hole in it, and I can hang it on the wall through the hole in the leaf, and then it has a sort of twist, and then in the end you can open bottles with it. Yeah, but I would like to do that more. Smithing is really, really nice to do. It's really cool.
So speaking of dwarves, you have a few dwarven songs, and I'm wondering what that actually is. What defines a dwarven song?
I think a dwarven song is defined by one part. When you listen to it, you have to become proud, like a dwarf. Another part is it has to somehow be masculine. And we're in an age now where with gender fluidity, and I'm definitely all for it. But that also makes real like extreme masculinity and extreme how do you say that for female femininity? It makes it a sort of more of a set apart than it usually is. So a dwarf is like totally male, like a beard, and he likes drinking and he likes brawling, and that's totally male. And I think if you have to put that in the song as well somehow. So for one of the dwarven songs, we even pitched my voice down a whole octave, so it's really, really deep, and it's in the dwarven language. And those were like the things like, okay, now it really sounds like a dwarven song.
When I think of dwarven songs, I think it would have to be something that, like, there's chanting almost, like a lot of dwarves would be singing at the same time.
Yeah, there's this band or group of singers, Clamavi de Profundis, which means, I think, voices from the deep. And they make a lot of really cool dwarven songs, exactly like you describe it right now.
Before we get off of Minecraft, I wanted to mention, you've taken landscape architecture courses, so you must be very good at Minecraft.
Yeah, I finished my bachelor landscape architecture, in 2015 or 16. Something like that. I think 2016 or 15. Yeah, and I was playing Minecraft already back then. I did use, and I do still use, some of the theory from my courses.
Is there anything that people build in Minecraft that like infuriates you, like as a landscape architect? Or are you like, that would never work?
No, I'm not that pretentious. No, definitely not. No, you can build whatever you want. Yeah, and landscape architecture is also quite a subjective field. So you have really good landscape architects who disagree with other really good landscape architects.
Fair enough. You had credited Minecraft as why you got into the sort of fantasy-inspired music.
Yeah.
What about music itself? Is Guitar Hero responsible for your love of music?
My mother used to say that. My mother used to say it's because I started playing Guitar Hero on the Wii. She bought the game and I did play it a lot. And then I also got a guitar for my birthday. I always say that I got inspired by Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, like the country singers. Yeah, I'm not sure which one is the correct one. It's so long ago.
What about, I hear a lot of guitarists, like a friend of mine's very good at guitar, and he kind of feels that Guitar Hero, he's one of those people who's like, well, why don't you just actually play guitar? Did it help or hinder at all, like going from Guitar Hero to real guitar?
No, it's two entirely different things. The one thing is a lot like you have the game with the blades now, I think. Like the VR thing with swords. What's it called?
Beat Saber.
Beat Saber, yes. Guitar Hero was like that.
Right.
It's just that your buttons were on the neck of the guitar and you had to strum like it was like clicking a mouse. So no, they're not related.
Okay. There was nothing like you went to guitar and you were like, wait, this isn't how I thought it was.
Yeah. I don't have. There's no red button on this guitar. What?
When you kind of got into this style of music, and you went on from the Minecraft album onto, you've done songs from Valheim, various games, but also you did an album from songs from the show Vikings. And My Mother Told Me was one that got really popular. Were you surprised by how much of a fan base there was for that kind of stuff?
I was pleasantly surprised about the way My Mother Told Me got received by the like bigger audiences. It got added to a lot of playlists. It's still the song that's performing the best. And whether I was surprised about... No, I knew there were a lot of fans of Vikings. Because I remember I've been wanting to do that song for a long time. And after we started making it and it was almost completed, I checked the Reddit and I saw how many people were on there. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of people. Maybe it will work. Maybe it won't. Because I also did songs from other fandoms that never really took off, like My Mother Told Me did. And I think I got really lucky because without planning it, we released My Mother Told Me at the same or just before the dates of the release of Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the last season of Vikings. So it was also timed really well.
Right.
Accidentally.
And one of the things for your Vikings songs, Each Must Die Someday is one of them. And that's based on a poem. It's only one verse in the show. You took it and you made more lyrics to it. Was it a bit... is it intimidating to be like, okay, now I need to add to this very famous ancient poem? And like, did you get feedback from people saying, oh, I like what you did with this, or you've totally ruined this?
Yeah. With Each Must Die Someday, I did the same as with My Mother Told Me. So My Mother Told Me was also only one verse in the show. And they were both inspired or based on ancient poems. And for Each Must Die Someday, I got some feedback from someone who also knew they were based on ancient poems and who had a more literal translation. And it was really nice because at first I was a bit scared because I thought like, oh man, this guy knows a lot about it. And I wasn't sure like if he doesn't like it and it will be bad. And but then I sort of made a different mindset as I was typing my reply, because I started out with, oh, actually, it's really nice to meet someone who's also as enthusiastic about this topic as I am. And then my whole train of thought went differently, and we had a small, a really friendly small discussion about the lyrics and about how it is in the poem. And that was, I think, in the comment section of the video of the song that I uploaded.
Mm-hmm. You've been making one song per month since November 2020. You've been doing music for longer than that, but you set a goal for yourself, one song per month since November 2020. And I certainly know what it's like to set a schedule for yourself that's asking a lot of yourself. Like, I do a show once a week, and I've really tried to stick to that. I have admittedly missed a couple. But what about you? Have you stuck to it so far? Are you finding it something that's kind of difficult?
I think so far I've stuck to it, except for this... for last month, because we were releasing an entire album this month, and it was just too much because my producer also works, I think 4 days a week, and I also work next to making music. I still work in the jean center, selling clothes, and that was a bit too much. So for 1 month I missed it, but then the next month there's 8 songs in 1 month. So I was sort of like, well, that compensates the one that I missed. But I can imagine actually that once a week, like what you're doing, I think it would be much harder. I'm already having trouble with uploading a weekly update on my Patreon. I'm still doing it, but it's still it takes some energy to sit down and write.
Definitely. When you set that kind of schedule, for music or for art, I guess in any sense, do you ever have to be like, oh, I'm not happy with this, but I gotta get it out there? Or like, how do you kind of deal with maybe you're having writer's block or something 1 month?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a very, well, how should I put this? It's like a balance. There's you want your monthly release because you want to keep doing it every month so that you have a steady sort of schedule, and also so that you keep producing. It's sort of a rule that you put in place so that you keep making music. And at the same time, you want to deliver a really good product. And especially with collaborations, I always keep reiterating and saying to my collaborators, like, okay, we have this deadline on the 1st of January, for instance, and we want to have all the instruments done by then. So then I have 1 week to sing, and then my producer has 1 week to edit, and then we can upload it. So we make a schedule, but at the same time, I also say, like, if you're not done at the 1st of January, or you have to rush yourself, then the 1st of January is not a real deadline. So it's a soft deadline, but I would like it to be a hard deadline if it's possible. So every time it's a balance between wanting to perform a really good song and wanting to release in time. And I think for me, the balance will, in the end, if I notice that it's not good, or not if it's not as good as I can get it, then I would rather not release it. I did release a song that I wasn't really happy with once before. And looking back, I think, like, it would have been better to take some more time.
Collaboration, you're a huge proponent of. You're very you think you learn a lot from it. Tell us. It's actually been a theme on this show for the past couple of weeks, how the video game music community, is so collaborative and how great that is. So can you tell us your experience finding people to work with and how it's been?
It has a lot of sides. I think it's you have to put yourself out there and dare to ask another artist. That's one thing. Because I didn't at first. I thought, like, oh, this artist is really huge and I'm not going to send a message, and then nothing happens. So if you don't ask, you're going to just stay in the same position and nothing will happen. So if you are able to move beyond that and actually ask an artist, then there are a couple of things that can happen, or at least what happened to me. One of them is the other artist is as enthusiastic about the idea as you are. That's the best outcome, I think. Like what I just said, like with Vera Miel, we're gonna collab together now, and she was enthusiastic, and we're talking, and it's nice. I had the same with Amy Wallace. Was also, she is the best. Like, she's Canadian. She's super, super, super friendly, like the stereotype Canadian for Canadians. And she's just really friendly and really enthusiastic. With Freya Catherine, also really nice. We have the great communication always. She likes to make good jokes, and it keeps everything lighthearted. So it's really nice. That's the best outcome. But then you have another outcome that you are super enthusiastic. The other one seems to be super enthusiastic. So then you already prepare mentally for all the things that I just said with the other artists. But the thing that actually happens is the other artist just stops replying and ghosts you. Or yeah, that happened to me several times actually. They are like, oh yeah, I checked out your music, that looks super cool, we can do a collaboration, yeah, the idea that you gave is fine, nice, let's do this. And then I reply like, okay, can you do this instrument or something like this? And then no reply. Or I sent them already once. I also already did something like recorded some instruments, and I said like, okay, now we just need your voice. And then still no reply. And I don't know why. Probably they're busy, or they would really like to do it, but they don't have the time or the energy, or they're not supposed to because of some contract or whatever. But that's a really sad one. And then there's another one that can happen, that is just that you don't get a reply to begin with. And I also understand that. Like, there are some artists that are really big, and they get messages all the time from smaller artists who would like to collaborate with them, because maybe they think like, oh, if I collaborate with a bigger artist, I will also get a bigger audience, which isn't definitely always true. And yeah, I understand if you don't react to that, but yeah. And then the final, because there's also one more, that's that an artist is just being nice, and they say like, okay, I like the idea, but I don't have time, or I don't like the idea of, or whatever. And I think the first and the last are the best. When people are being honest, that's a key thing. So also in the medieval fantasy music scene, there are people who would like to work together, and there are people who don't like to work together. And the best of both are just the people who are just being honest about it, honest and open.
It's funny, I am familiar with basically all those scenarios in this format, in the interview kind of thing. You know, I've certainly been, and I, like you say, I don't blame anyone. People get busy or what have you, but definitely it's frustrating to be in contact with someone, you're going back and forth, and then suddenly that contact stops. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah. And I even ask sometimes, like, hey, what happened? You know, you were so happy and like enthusiastic about this idea, and then still no reply. And often I think like, was it me?
Right.
You know, did I say something wrong, or did I release something that they're like, oh, I don't like that? And yeah, that's such a natural reaction to just to blame yourself. And especially with bigger artists, it also feels really bad. Like, you're like, okay, this is a nice artist that I really like to sing, to hear, and we get to work together, and you already tell your friends or your fans, like, we're gonna do this collaboration, and then nothing happens. It's just such a bummer.
Yeah. Even in my day-to-day job, I get frustrated. Slightly different, but I have to do a lot of, like, here's that thing you asked for kind of emails. And when people don't respond with a simple, like, got it, I'm left there like, well, did you get it?
Yes. Oh, man. Okay. I thought there were not that many people who are like this, but you're just the same as I. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I have the same thing also with contacts when I do a live gig or something like this. And they ask me to send them some pictures. For instance, a newspaper or social media. And they ask me some more questions. And then I think like, okay, it's important that I answer these questions. But then you don't get a reply like, okay, thanks for this, and I'm going to work. Bye. Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of correspondence, one of your Patreon perks is you will send handwritten letters in medieval style writing. which is very cool. You do drawings as well. You're an artist in many ways. So your font work is very nice. But I think that I'm a big fan of getting and sending handwritten letters. I think that would be a very cool. How long does it take to make a medieval style letter? Let's say, I don't know, 100 words.
100 words. Yeah, what I do is I sit down. First, I find some really nice paper. It has to be on like a sort of brownie paper. And if I don't have it, I make it with coffee and tea. You can sort of make stains and make it look good. And and then I write. Most of the times I've been able to send it twice now. And it were twice to people that I know. So I think a bit about them, and then I put them in this medieval setting. So, for instance, one of my patrons has been supporting me for so long that by now they've given me 100 euros in support. And I thought, okay, I have to send them a letter because I'm super grateful. So, and I knew them, and then I just imagined they were this like wealthy, noble family or something. So I just started my letter with something appropriate for this situation. So I write it in character and some nice letters and a signature. And I bought this wax that you can seal it with a stamp of a compass so that I could seal the letter also. I really like it to be in character. That's also why I make these songs, and that's what I like about gaming and about Dungeons and Dragons and everything, when you're really in character in this world as if you're in a movie or in a book. And I would like to create that for others too. That's why I put that as a perk for being a patron.
How did you get to be in a fashion show?
Yeah. I live in a small town in the Netherlands, in Wageningen. And when in this small town, there is not that many professional musicians. There's a lot of musicians because there's a university here, so there's many students. But I got in touch with someone who organizes events in the city center, and I want to make music my number one income. So I take pretty much every gig that I can get that pays reasonably well. And one of them was to play some guitar at a local fashion show inside a church. And he asked me, and I said, yeah, well, I'm always open for new experiences, so let's do it.
Did you get to walk the runway at all? I'm wondering if you got to bring like your Viking shield and show that.
That would have been nice. No, they asked me to, during the break, to walk on the runway and play some songs. Which I did, but it was in a church and it was super noisy, so no one could actually hear me. But that's the thing. When you do something new, it can go really well, it can go really wrong, and everything in between. And then you learn from it, and for the next time, to bring some amplification.
One of your goals a little earlier was to perform in a church, which you have now done. Can I ask why you wanted, like, what is it about a church that's so special to perform in?
For me, I can break it up in two things. One of the things is that I've seen other artists do it, and it has something like with all this echo and all this acoustics inside a church. It makes it really special, and you have to practice several times in order to get it right and to know what songs work, because, of course, a church, some songs just don't work there. That's one thing that I saw, the setting is special. And the other thing was also, it is not something I can just arrange. At least that's what I thought. I thought, like, if I want to play in a church, normally churches are used for religious activities, and I'm gonna sing about Vikings raiding the coast. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a sort of anti-Christianity, sort of you could say, and talking or singing about Viking gods inside a church. I don't know. But this church is also really often being used for events, just like this catwalk show. And I thought, why would I want to play in a church? Because it seems impossible. That was the first thing. And I thought, oh, it is possible, but how am I going to do it? So I set a goal last year, like next year I want to play in a church. That's what I want to do. And that's how I did that. And for the next year, I also made a goal for 2023. I would like to have my voice inside a video game for a soundtrack. Voice acting would also be super cool, but at least to be in a soundtrack, to write music or to have a composer write something and sing for them. So that's the goal I've set for the next year, to be in a video game or a TV series. But let's start with a video game. I don't care what kind of video game, if it's indie or RPG or whatever, sci-fi. I also love sci-fi. I'm a total geek. So, yeah.
Well, you have sort of done that with your Space Pirates song, and I'm sorry I should have written down the video game name, but you entered a contest and you did a sort of sci-fi fantasy song. Yeah. And it won, and now you are in this video game.
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true. It's in the, if people build a jukebox, they can select my song and listen to it. Yeah, it's for the game Space Engineers. So people can build spaceships, and one of the blocks that they can put down is a jukebox block, and then they can listen to this song. So yeah, it's sort of there, but it's not really in the soundtrack. It's not as if you put the soundtrack on that it will be played. So I've set my goal a little bit higher than that, but it was a really nice experience, especially to be in the top to actually win, because there were over 300 entries, and I was in the top 15, and they didn't really point out a real winner, but it was a fan favorite because it was the only song that was submitted with vocals. All the others were just electronic instrumentals without vocals, and this one was electronic instrumentals with vocals. Yeah.
When you make a song about space pirates, is it kind of, do you have to get into a different mindset than a fantasy medieval thing, or is it basically like, okay, this is fantasy medieval but space?
Yeah, I think I would call it the same mindset. It's still fantasy, but then in space, and it's still the same kind of process. So I think like, okay, we have this universe, or this this universe where there are people who are building ships and building a lot, and then there are the enemies, and they are the pirates, the space pirates. And then I think, who is this character? And so I had this character be the leader of the pirates. That would be cool. Okay, let's do that. And then I expand that idea, give him a personality, and then I stand in front of the mic and I go, "Ah, mateys, get a scrub the deck, you filthy bilge rat." And it just goes like this, and then I have to add some vocals to that and actually sing. I kind of ruined my voice at some point, but it was super nice. And I'm now actually doing a collaboration with another winner of the Sound of Space Engineers competition. So his song was also added to the jukebox, and we are creating a dubstep song with some fanatic cultist singing and screaming. That also ruined my voice, but I think it's going to be epic once it's finished.
So you may have just answered what I'm going to end off here with, but you've done the Pagan Christmas album. Obviously, you're still doing your one song a month, but what's the next big project for you, if you can tell us?
Yeah, so this one has been going on that I just talked about. The space thing has been going on for several months, and he's fine-tuning it still, so it's still not done. The next big thing... I think the most of my energy will go to finding video game people who make video game developers and video game composers, and try to collaborate with them, because exactly I have my monthly songs next month. So January it's gonna be Touch the Sky from Brave. February, I'm going to work with Vira Miel to make a medieval fantasy version of As the World Falls Down from David Bowie's The Labyrinth album. Mm-hmm. March, hopefully March, but it might be later, it will be The Phantom of the Opera with Amy Wallace. So those are the things I'm working on now, but the really big thing, what I really want to achieve in next year, is to be in the soundtrack of a game. So if there's any composers or developers listening who are interested, get in touch.
Well, people can check you out at bartzeal.com. That's BARTZEAL. Anywhere else people can check you out, and how do they get a hold of your pagan Christmas album, December Celebrations? Maybe I should stop calling it that, because you said it's more than pagan at this point.
Yeah, it started as a pagan Christmas album. That's true, but there's also a real Christmas song on it and some other. But I think mostly pagan. I mean, everything that's not Christian is pagan, basically, or it used to be. They can find me on Spotify under the same name, Bart Zeal, YouTube, all the social media, and that's also all linked on my website. So in my website, you can find everything together. And on my website, you can also go to Bandcamp, and there you can buy the December Celebrations album digitally. And I still have 3 physical copies left as well. So you can also order them, but you have to send me an email.
Bart Zeal, thank you so much.
And thanks for having me.